Hi, Jeremy Crow here. Welcome to the Esoteric Insomniac live stream, episode 4. Yeah, this is just a place to hang out, chat about various esoteric and occult subjects, whatever we want to talk about. I'll be here for this will be roughly about a 45 minute episode. I see we have one viewer already. So yeah, just feel free to leave a comment here on the live chat and we can talk about anything. I didn't have anything in particular that I wanted to talk about this evening. I see we got another viewer here. So yeah, if you're around, leave a message in the live chat here. Yeah, I haven't posted too much lately. I actually had some health-related issues that I've been, dealing with. That everything is fine. Everything's fine now. Just had to get some tests and stuff to make sure everything was okay, and turns out it is. Just, but yeah, that's why I haven't been as active on Twitter and YouTube as much lately. But yeah, so yeah, I don't know, what do you want to talk about? We got 4 people here now. That's pretty good for the first couple minutes of the chat, or of the Carstream. Yeah, it's almost 3:15 in the morning where I am here. If there's a bit of ambient noise, I'm sorry, because I need to have the car on to have the heater going, because it's actually pretty cold here in Toronto. It's, I think, around just below freezing, 0 degrees, or maybe -1. What does it say here? It says 0 degrees, but it is snowing, so it's usually a little bit below 0 Celsius, talking about. And here I am talking about the weather. But yeah, so what shall we talk about? Last live stream that I did, last car stream, as one of my viewers here put it. -3 in Oslo, Norway, Petter says. Oh, okay. So it's a little bit chillier where you are. I'm not sure what that is in Fahrenheit, but there's only 3 places in the world that use the old imperial system, and that would be, what is it? Myanmar, Liberia, and the United States of America. So USA, you're in good company. Or not. Yeah, maybe you should think about going to metric like the rest of the civilized world. Eden says, hi there, I'm curious, do you know what the phrase or idea of the black flame came from, or who said it first? 21 degrees Celsius in Athens. Guess I'm lucky for Oliver. Yeah, that's quite warm. Eden wanted to know about black flame. Now, I'm not exactly sure the first usage of that, but I know that I was talking with Michael Ford, and he was telling me that he traced it back to some term that meant black flame in some really distant, ancient mythology. I can't remember what it was. I know he's very into the Persian stuff. I can't remember if it was from there or maybe it was from the Sumerian. I'm not sure, but it goes very far back. I know that it was popularized by probably the Temple of Set, because I know they use it a lot. They are really into using that term, the black flame. And what were the other questions you had about it? Where it came from, or who said it first? I'm not sure exactly. But I know that in modern times, it was probably the Temple of Set that popularized it. That's who made it very common among the left-hand path community to refer to. And they use it as like sort of like the creative impulse. I guess you could say maybe I'm getting it wrong. I'm not a member of the Temple of Set and never have been, but I know people who are, and I've studied some of their materials, even some of the materials that are supposed to be for members only that have been leaked online and stuff like that. I've read some of that. But yeah, black flame, it's very powerful symbol, I think. And in my mind, I connect it with another term called darkness visible. And that's that's a term that I encountered in Freemasonry, actually, where they say that the light of, this is in the third degree ceremony, in case you're not a Mason and you've never experienced the Master Mason ritual, it's within that ceremony that they say the light of a Master Mason is darkness visible. And they don't explain it. But I find it very intriguing. This idea that you could see the darkness, in a sense. Sorry, I got a hair was in my mouth for like ever, and I was trying to get it, but anyways, Eden says, I like the idea of the black flame, and no, I'm not a Mason nor a Setian. Okay. So the other source that I found, the other place that I encountered that term darkness visible, was actually in Paradise Lost by John Milton. And in that, the devil gets cast into the abyss, or where is it? They say basically the underworld or whatever. They end up calling it pandemonium, but I'm not sure if when he first gets there, I'm not sure if it's called pandemonium yet, which means like the city of all demons, basically. Pandemonium, Pandemon. Pan meaning all, demon, of course, and then pandemonium is like referring to the place of all demons. So that's where that word pandemonium comes from, is John Milton, I believe. I think he coined the term in Paradise Lost to refer to that realm of all, where all the demons ended up going. But it's interesting because in that story, he says that there is flame. There are flames that he encountered in that place when he was cast out of heaven during the rebellion. That there were flames that didn't give off light exactly, but more a darkness visible. So that's interesting. It refers to like this, I guess, like a black flame that was found in hell, where Satan makes his domain, where he makes the famous line, better to reign in hell than to serve in heaven. But yeah, in Paradise Lost, you have that black flame that gives off a darkness visible. And it's not exactly light, but it still gives off some sort of perceptibleness. I don't know how to describe it, because it's like it says not light exactly, but more of a darkness visible. So those are the two classic sources of that term, darkness visible. And I haven't found any other like ancient or old sources for that term. So I find it very interesting that both of those two things, the light of a Master Mason is darkness visible, and that's the same term that's used to describe the light in hell. Let's see here. Oliver says, yeah, the phrase a darkness visible comes from the first book of Paradise Lost, line 63. Peter Petter says, from darkness to light. Oliver says, I like the idea of the black flame too, as a description or depiction of illumination. Yeah, I really like it. I think that that's what Oliver said, that last thing that I read. I really like it because it kind of implies that which was hidden, becoming visible. Darkness being that which you are not aware of, as a symbol for that which you're not aware of. The unknown, right? The hidden, the forbidden, even perhaps. That which is unknown, the unknown in general. But darkness visible, meaning that you have become aware of it, that you are aware of that which is hidden. So it's no longer hidden to you. So that darkness becomes visible. So I like that idea. And it's kind of like maybe even parts of your own mind becoming visible or becoming perceptible. Something that you can become aware of or lucid of. I really like that a lot. I feel like you said, Oliver, it's like a depiction of illumination, in a sense, that becoming aware of that which is hidden. And I took that as an inspiration for the term flambeau noir. So that's a French word, or a French, French words that I coined that term myself, flambeau noir. So flambeau, it means torch, and noir means black. So that would be a black torch. And a torch is something, obviously, that you can use to control a flame or pass it on to another individual. You can take the flame and you can pass it on, pass the torch, right? One of the whole points of Luciferianism, or the basis of Luciferianism, I mean, look at the word Lucifer. Lucifer means bringer of light, or light bearer. And you could think of it as a torch, and usually we think of it as the hidden or forbidden knowledge that is the light of Lucifer, is that hidden knowledge. And he is, or she, Lucifer is that light bearer, is that torch in a sense, and passes that torch, communicates that black flame to others, that hidden knowledge. So you have the archetype of Lucifer, the Luciferian archetype, and that is like very similar to the hero's journey that is spoken of by, what is this, Joseph Campbell. And this talks about how the hero goes on becomes an outsider of some sort, goes on a journey, faces a challenge, overcomes it, and gains something, also loses something, ends up coming back and bringing that knowledge that they gained to enrich the community that they originally had left. So that hero is that person who ends up taking on that risk in order to gain something and bringing it back to enrich the society that he initially had broken off from, in a sense. And I talk about this a lot in my other videos as well, but you have individuals who have really embodied that Luciferian archetype, and not just mythological characters, but real characters or real figures in real life. And one of the most common that I talk about would be Galileo, because it's just such a he embodies that very, very strongly, because now he said famously that the earth revolves around the sun, where in a time when that was a heretical idea, the church, the Catholic Church had so much power, and they had this idea that the earth was the center of the universe. So to say that the earth revolves around the sun rather than the earth being the center and everything revolving around it was heretical, and he faced death from being, from expressing heretical ideas. So he was willing to share forbidden knowledge with the humanity, and it upset the status quo, and he faced very real repercussions for upsetting the status quo by the ruling authorities at the time, by the establishment. And that is, in a nutshell, the Luciferian archetype. I mean, look at Prometheus. Prometheus stole the fire from the gods, right? And taught humanity the use of fire. And they weren't supposed to know that. Like Zeus and the other Olympian gods, they didn't want humanity to have that knowledge. That was forbidden to them. But Prometheus gave them that forbidden knowledge. And Prometheus faced the wrath of Zeus for it. He was tied to a boulder on a mountain, and an eagle would come and eat his liver every day, and then every night it would grow back, and the eagle would come back and eat the liver again. The serpent in Eden is another great example. The serpent in Eden encouraged Eve to eat from the tree of forbidden knowledge, and she did, and he was doing it, presumably, I mean, depending on what you think, what your theology is, but he was doing it because he said you'll know the knowledge just like the gods, right? And so presumably he was doing it for the benefit of humanity, but some people say he wanted them to fall, fall from grace or whatever. He was trying to sabotage them, some people say. That's not how I look at it. I look at it in the same way as I look at the story of Prometheus, where Prometheus was trying to empower humanity, trying to make them less dependent on the ruling authority, the Olympian gods. He wanted them to reach their higher potential, right? And I feel like that's the same kind of underlying intention there in the story of the serpent in Eden. Now you have, like I said, Galileo giving that forbidden knowledge to humanity to enlighten them, to allow them to understand the universe from a more knowledgeable perspective. And he faced the wrath of the ruling elites, the establishment, because he was upsetting the status quo. He was challenging the status quo. So that whole concept of passing the knowledge, passing or distributing of forbidden knowledge, I feel like that is, personally, I like to embody that whole concept with that idea of the torch, the black torch, the torch that holds the black flame. And so I came up with that term, flambeau noir. And I've used that term to brand the International Left-Hand Path conferences that I've organized and produced. Not the first couple. The first couple, I just called them International Left-Hand Path Conference or something very similar. But then somebody else came up with, they started doing their own independent ones that were using an almost identical name, and people were constantly thinking that it was me doing it. And I think that was probably the intention behind giving it such a practically identical name, is that they were trying to harness the all the momentum that I had built up with my organization, or not organization, but with the conferences that I had put on. that they were trying to harness that whole momentum that I had built up, and it kind of worked because a lot of people thought that it was something that I was involved with, but it wasn't. So to differentiate mine, I started calling it Flambeau Noir as well. So the last couple that I organized were branded as Flambeau Noir, and I'm going to be using that Flambeau Noir brand actually to for a couple other things as well that I have in the works. So I have a tarot deck that I am in the process of creating. I have it all in here already. I have my own internal deck, and I have for years, but I decided, I'd like to manifest a physical version of it that I can sell to people who might be interested in my take on the tarot. And my take on the tarot is a little different. I've been studying tarot since I started studying it very seriously when I was 17, and I am close to 42 years old now. I'll be 42 in just a couple months. So that's close to 15 years? Is that? No, I mean 25 years? Is that right? 25 years, I think? Or no. Yeah, 25 years. So I've been seriously studying tarot for about 25 years. And even before that, I was really into cards in general, like playing cards. I'd looked at tarot images, even from a very young age, and been very impressed by them, and they had a very strong impression upon me, a mental impression. Some of them, certain images really burned themselves into my mind. In particular, the Tower card. There was this old, image that was in a book that I got off my dad's bookshelf. My dad had a bunch of esoteric and occult books in his collection that I would sometimes read some of his books. And my dad also taught me divination using tea leaves. So I learned that when I was quite young. I don't know, must have been maybe 8 years old or something when he taught me that. And my grandmother, my dad's mother, she used to do readings with regular playing cards, and I'm not sure where she got that from or where she learned it from. She didn't really talk about it. She would just do it sometimes. She was native, a full native, full Ojibwe, and she would I remember going to the res where she lived, and she would be playing solitaire, and I would sit down beside her and watch her play, and then she instead of just playing solitaire, she would turn it into a reading. So she would actually play the game, but as each card was revealed, you know how you turn up certain cards, right? And she would place them, right? Just playing the game, just like a regular game of solitaire. She would play it by the regular rules of solitaire, but she was interpreting each card as she was flipping them. And it was really, I found it very intriguing. I thought that was really cool, even as a little kid. So basically, it's been around me my whole life, but for the past 25 years, I really studied tarot. And my own personal tarot, I've taken a different sequence for the major arcana cards. So the main cards, if you're not that familiar with tarot, it's divided into two sections. You have the minor arcana, which is pretty much almost identical to a playing card deck. It uses different suits. It uses instead of clubs, it has wands. Instead of diamonds, it has coins, or discs, or pentacles. And instead of hearts, it's got cups. And what's the other one? Instead of spades, it's got swords. But they're almost the same. And also in the tarot, you have an extra court card. So instead of Jack, Queen, King, you have an extra one. Now some decks are different, but often you have Page, Knight, Queen, King in the tarot. So there's an extra 4 cards in the minor arcana compared to a regular playing card deck. So you have, 56 cards instead of 52. And then the major arcana of the tarot are the trumps, you could say. That's what they're generally referred to, traditionally at least. And these are the 22 cards that have like the iconic names, like the Death card, the Tower card, the Lovers, the Emperor, the Empress, the Hierophant, Judgment, Temperance, all these classic, iconic cards that have a central image and a name and a number. And those numbers, there's a sequence. So usually you have the Fool is either 0 or it's unnumbered. And then you have 1 to 21. And people often refer to that sequence going from 1 to 21 as the journey of the Fool. So the Fool, which is a 0 or the unnumbered card, that's kind of like the guy that's going through the whole sequence of the major arcana. Now I have a different sequence altogether. I use a different sequence for the major arcana in my own personal deck, my own internal deck. And I'll use whatever deck that I have that I like the artwork on, that feels good, that looks nice to me, and I'll use it as a physical proxy for my own internal deck, if you know what I mean. So it doesn't really matter what's on the deck that I'm using at the time. I'm referencing my own internal deck, and these cards are just a physical representation for it. So in my own head, I'll be like, oh, okay, so this is that card, and that's what that means to me in my own system, right? And I'd like to share it with people. I'd like to actually produce it and have you guys play around with it and see what you think. See if you like that sequence that I put it up, that I've changed radically. I'm not sure if there's even one card. I should look on my list there. I've got written out. I'm not sure if I even have one card in the same position. But I've also added 3 cards to the major arcana. And now, so that's sacrilege to some. And some people will say, well, that's not a tarot deck. If it's got 81 cards, it has to have 78. Well, that's the traditional one, but now I have all those 78 cards in my deck. I just have 3 more. Now, if when I do finally put out my deck, if you don't like those extra 3 cards, or you don't feel like they fit in the deck, or they're not, if you don't like them, you just take them out, and then now you have a standard 78 card deck. Maybe there's a different number listed on there, but if you know the number of your sequence, you can just use it the same way exactly, right? The other thing too is, I'm kind of giving away a lot of stuff here before it's put out, but I'll share it with you guys. I'll let you guys in on it. I'd like to actually use the suits that are used in the playing card deck, the hearts, diamonds, spades, clubs, rather than the suits that are more common in the tarot, the wands, swords, cups, and pentacles, right? Instead of using those, I want to use the playing card ones, and I want to make it in the size of a playing card deck, so it's almost like a stealth tarot deck, where you can be in like a coffee shop, right, a cafe, with your friend, and you could give them a reading, and people might just think that you're playing a card game with each other, because they glance over and they see, oh, a bunch of playing cards, right? So that's part of, I'm not going to give away everything before I release it, but those are some of the differences in my own personal deck, and I feel like that's why it's worth actually producing, because I'm contributing something different. It's a unique thing. It's not something that's already out there. Let's see here. We got a couple comments here. Eden says a bit like shadow work, referring to the black flame stuff. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Oliver says, speaking of Michael Ford, I got his book Apotheosis today. I really respect him and his work, but I really don't know how to feel about his affiliation with ONA or EA Coetting for that matter. Well, his affiliation with the Order of Nine Angles, not angels. Some people say angels, and it's not angels, it's angles. But yeah, his past association with the ONA, I mean, that's a long time ago that he was involved with them, and he didn't like some of the direction that he saw it going in, and he decided he didn't want to be part of it anymore, and so he left. So I wouldn't be too worried. I wouldn't be too concerned about that. If you don't like the ONA, I wouldn't judge Michael for having once been a part of it and then decided to that he didn't no longer want to be part of it. That's something that you could praise him for, really. If you don't like the ONA, then you should agree with Michael on that, because he doesn't throw out the baby with the bathwater either, though. There's some really interesting things that they came up with. EA Coetting, yeah, it's interesting that he's become more friendly with that crew lately. There are definitely some people that are part of that crew that are very cool. I don't know EA personally, or I've never even talked to him or chatted with him online or anything. I don't know him, but yeah, some of his stuff comes off a little how do I put this? A little snake oil salesman-y. He has that kind of salesy vibe to him. But I think he knows his stuff. If you look at some of his early material before he kind of got all salesy, then you can tell he knows what he's talking about. So I think it's kind of he's doing it for a reason. So I don't know. But there are some cool people that are part of his crew. Asenath Mason, she was involved with what is that? The Temple of Ascending Flame, which I think is a very cool project. I'm not a member, but I like the way that they operate. I like the model of their organization, where they put out these projects, which are basically open source projects that you can just kind of download the material and participate in without asking permission or anything like that. You just do it. You just get the material and you do the work. I love that. I try and do that in a lot of my projects. I converted the Ordo Luciferi, the original Luciferian order that was started by Lucian Black. I ended up becoming the head of that at one point, and I kind of converted it into more of an open source system where you don't have to ask permission. You go through the self-initiation that I wrote, and then you take the guideposts of the various different degrees, and you can you can kind of look at, have I accomplished these markers? Have I achieved these certain accomplishments that denote the level of accomplishment of a second degree? And you could consider yourself a second degree if you have accomplished those milestones. And likewise with the third, and so forth. degrees of the Ordo Luciferi, and I have like an open source kind of vibe to the Titanic Order of Prometheus. Actually, that wasn't the one that I was gonna say. That too, but that doesn't have nearly as much material out there. But what was it? The Ziggurat of Enki. So if you go to my website, jeremycrow.com, and you sign up for my newsletter, which is currently inactive, but you know, when I get the time, I'm gonna start doing it again, which I keep saying, but you know, I have been crazy busy, and it's just one thing after the other, seems like lately. But if you go to jeremycrow.com, sign up to my newsletter, and once you verify your email address, you'll get an email with a link in there where you can download an ebook, which is the grade book for the first initiation in the Ziggurat of Enki, which is the Descent of Ishtar ritual. And it requires 5 people to perform. 1 person that plays the initiate, and then 4 people that play officer roles in a lodge style initiation rite. And you don't need to ask me for permission to use it. You don't need to petition me for a charter to start a lodge. You just download the material and you just put it to work. You do the work. You get access to material and you do the work. You don't have to like try and get permission from some authority figure such as, you know, myself or anyone. You just do it. You know, I love that kind of work ethic and that concept where if you have access to the material, you just do it. Don't ask permission. Like, this is the left-hand path. Like, why do people feel the necessity of asking permission? You know, can I do this ritual? Just do it. Just fucking do it. You know, and if somebody, you know, like the OTO, I know the OTO is not left-hand path, but a lot of people treat it that way. They will reject, or I was part of a lodge that the charter was revoked from that. I mean, it's not, they don't call it a lodge, but the same thing. The charter was revoked and it dissolved, you know. Well, why didn't we just keep going, you know? Not enough people wanted to is the real reason, but there's nothing stopping you from continuing to practice. Just because some dude in some other country says, "Oh no, we're revoking your charter. We're taking permission away from you." Fuck you. We're gonna do it anyways if we want to, but we didn't want to, so we didn't, right? But that whole concept just rubs me the wrong way. Like this structured hierarchy thing that's so strict where you have to get permission from some other person, from any other person in the world. You know, like, why would you ask permission for that kind of thing? Just do it, you know. But yeah, so that was stemming from the whole concept of the EA Coetting thing, and I was saying Asenath Mason is cool because of her project, the Temple of Ascending Flame. I like the way they do things. Another couple people that are involved with EA Coetting's, what do they call it? Become a Living God crew would be JD and yeah, who else we got there? He's got a channel from the darkness to the light or something similar, which I keep meaning to be a guest on, but you know, like I said, things have just been so crazy. Or Lee, you know, his partner, she was actually in Ontario, living in Ontario, the same province that I live in Canada, and the first International Left Hand Path Conference ever that I produced, that anybody produced. She was part of the art show that I produced as part of that. And it was called the Lightbringers Art Show. And she had artwork that she presented in that gallery exhibit that I produced. And that was kind of a bit of a turning point for her, where she ended up getting back into the community and ended up moving to Toronto and joining the OTO. And she had some experience with that, and she ended up not staying with the OTO, but she did get some really cool experience out of that, and ended up going on, and she ended up meeting JD and moving to live with him, and they're very happy, it seems, and they produce a lot of really cool content on their YouTube channels that you should probably check out. Eden says, I really like the idea of the black flame being passed as a torch, as I am a Luciferian myself. Wish that I could visit these conferences, but I'm living in Sweden. Yeah, it would be very cool to have one in Europe. I'd like to produce one in Europe one of these days. I've kind of stepped back a little bit from producing these conferences just because it takes up so much of my time, money, energy, and I've been wanting to finish. I've got a couple books on the go, plus this deck and this tarot deck, and I want to actually finish it, and it's almost impossible to work on it while trying to produce a conference. In a conference, it takes about 9 months of effort to produce, so it takes up almost a whole year. Restless says, I want your deck. That's a noble endeavor. Thank you. I'm really glad to hear that you're interested. Oliver says, shameless self-promo. If you haven't already found an illustrator for your deck, hit me up. Oh, very interesting, Oliver. Restless says, does your dad consider himself Luciferian or anyone else in your family? No. My dad actually considers himself Christian. But he also is a very, I guess you could say, superstitious in a sense. And he embraces that term. So I'm not, being, I'm not trying to smear him or anything like that with the term, but he believes in things like luck and various, he believes in the esoteric stuff, and he taught me, like I said, tea leaf divination, but he kind of stays away from a lot of the more heavy occult type stuff. He feels like it's risky, maybe. But yeah, he considers himself Christian, actually, and my grandmother did as well. But my grandmother, she went through a very interesting period of time in her growing up. I remember one time she was talking to me about the powwows that happen on the reservation, and she goes, the powwows that are happening now, and they do all these different ceremonies and things, she goes, it's not like what we used to do when I was a kid, like the real stuff before it kind of got shut down a little bit, you might as well say. And she was kind of converted to Christianity, and she ended up staying she ended up staying a Christian for the rest of her life. But she did have some interesting beliefs as well that kind of were more traditional native beliefs. Restless as a nod to your grandmother. Thank you. Yep, she's passed on now at this point, but yeah, she's definitely, I still honor her as an ancestor, if you know what I mean. Christine says, hello from the Blue Mountains. Great to see you, Jeremy. Thank you very much for stopping into this Carstream. I don't have too much time left, but yeah, I'm gonna be on here for another maybe 5 minutes or so. Restless says, be a self-starter. I'm not exactly sure what that's in reference to because I'm kind of reading these older things as we go back. That was like almost 10 minutes ago, that comment. I'm getting behind here. So Oliver says, I'm all about change, growth, and personal development. I won't cancel Michael Ford because he once had ties with the ONA, but it ain't fun when my faves turn out to be problematic. I'm not sure how that's problematic that he was once part of the ONA and decided that it was going in a direction he didn't approve of, you know, and then he quit. Like, what else are you gonna do? You know, like, if you're part of an organization that's going in a direction you don't want, you quit, right? What did you expect him to do? To go back in time and not join ever? Or you know, it's, and once you've become part of an organization, you know, it's like, if you see them doing things you don't like, you can't unjoin, you just quit, right? Oliver's, honestly, with all this stuff going, with all these people who turn out to be really shitty, I'm really cautious when I get into someone else's work, etc. Also, EA literally sells snake oil on his site. Does he? That's hilarious. You know, I don't really pay that much attention to EA, really, to be honest. There are, like I said, there are a couple people in his camp that I do follow some of the work, but not EA himself. I don't really follow his stuff. Petter says, in my local OTO lodge, we have members who are also into left-hand path practices like Levian Satanism and Draconian magic. Interesting, Petter. Do you consider the OTO to be left-hand path? Because I know that Crowley did not consider himself to be left-hand path, at least publicly. Probably personally as well, from his writings and stuff, it seems like he genuinely considered himself to be right-hand path. So I'd be interested in to hear your, as an active OTO member, do you consider the OTO to be right-hand path or left-hand path? Because I know what Crowley's opinion was on that, but a lot of people nowadays use it like it was a left-hand path, even though that was never intended by Crowley. Miss B says hi. Hi. Thanks for stopping in, Miss B. And everyone else who's here. Restless says thanks for the stream, Jeremy. Christine says I'm burning sage to cleanse the place before bed. Very cool. You know, I'm not going to get to go to bed for another, what is it, about 4 hours. But yeah, that's a very cool practice to smudge with sage before bed. There are different things that I do before bed as well. I don't have time to get into it, but let's see. Hail Satan says, hi, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you too, Hail Satan. Thanks for stopping into the stream. Oliver said, no, I meant that I'm not going to cancel him for having joined ONA since he left the order after they got into the Nazi stuff. Yeah. There you go. And that's kind of what I was getting at. Like, I don't think that you should consider somebody a shitty person because they were once a part of an organization and then left it, you know, because they left it, right? Which it looks like you're also saying. So I applaud that. Eden says, great talking to you. Hope you will have a lovely night. Thank you so much, Eden, and to you too, and everyone here who showed up. I hope you have an amazing night or day, depending on what time zone you're in. I know some people here are in different time zones, and it's daytime for you. You're in the middle of the day, and I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope you have a wonderful night. I hope you have some amazing, intense, and lucid dreams if you're about to go to bed. And thank you so much to everybody who joined. We're building up a community here with these live streams. I really appreciate everybody who comes to these. Hail Satan says, I like your videos here. Fantastic, brother. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. To hear that people are enjoying the content that I put out. Lately, it's just been live streams because I've been, like I said, I've been so busy. I haven't really had time to put out a more a pre-recorded video that has like a planned set of points and a specific topic to cover, but I am going to be doing that again. I haven't just shifted to fully live stream thing, but I'll have a mixture of pre-recorded videos and the occasional live stream as well. So I hope you'll, if you're not already subscribed to my channel, I hope if you've watched this long, I hope you'll consider subscribing to the channel so you can get notified when I do have a live stream coming up, as well as when I upload a pre-recorded video on a specific topic. And Christine says, oh, Oliver says, thanks so much for the stream. Always looking forward to seeing your content. Thank you so much, Oliver. And Christine says, thank you. You're awesome. You're awesome, Christine. She says, I study philosophy and psychology. You helped me with that. Oh, I appreciate you saying that. And on that note, thank you again to everybody who showed up here. Thank you to everybody who's watching this Carstream on archive after the fact as well. You know, anything that you found interesting in the video, please comment below. Tell me what you liked about this video, and any ideas for standalone pre-recorded videos that you'd like me to tackle, like a specific topic that you'd like me to tackle for a pre-recorded video, because I'm always looking for new ideas for what to do for these videos as well. And I want to do videos that you want to see. So give me ideas for what you'd like me to cover, and I'll try and cover as many of those topics as possible. And until next time, everybody, stay lucid.